All right, I'm back. Today I want to address the question of whether or not J.D. Vance was a good pick by President Trump to be his VP candidate. Before the RNC, there were a lot of different people who were in talks about potentially being his VP, but ultimately it came down to J.D. Vance. Other names that were considered were the likes of Doug Burgum, Ben Carson, Marco Rubio, Glenn Youngkin, many others. All these guys would have brought with them different pros and cons, but ultimately Vance was the pick. So why did Trump pick him? Well, he's the senator from Ohio. Ohio is a Rust Belt state, and the Rust Belt region is a very important region in this election. It's the region that gave Trump the victory in 2016, and it is a crucial area for this election. Trump has to win at least one state from the Rust Belt, and if he wins all three Rust Belt states, the election is virtually guaranteed. That's if he wins Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. So the idea is that J.D. Vance will help him there. It's not really clear whether or not that'll be the case because J.D. Vance is from Ohio, a state which is solidly in the Republican camp right now. But J.D. Vance is really a Rust Belt success story. He came from a poor family, raised, I believe, by his grandmother, and he has risen to become a U.S. Senator, so it's an inspiring story. And Vance wrote a book called Hillbilly Elegy that kind of goes through that. So that's kind of the pros. Additionally, Vance is a family man, so that's a good image. He's young as well, so that kind of, it did contrast with Joe Biden. Now that Kamala Harris is going to be the nominee, there's not as much of a contrast, but he still kind of balances out the ticket with Trump being older. But since J.D. Vance became the Republican nominee for vice president, the leftist media has been attacking him nonstop. Most recently, they've been running the weird campaign against him, trying to say that this regular guy from the Rust Belt, probably the most normal candidate there's been in a long time, certainly if you compare him to the likes of Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and Kamala Harris. They've been trying to say he's weird for one reason or another, in many cases stemming from the fact that he is a family man and a conservative man. I guess to the left that's weird. But do I think that this line of attack is going to work against him? Personally, I don't think it will long term. Because, like I said, J.D. Vance, he's a regular guy from the Rust Belt. He's, all politicians are weird, but among politicians, he's really not bad. So, ultimately, I don't think this was the best pick for Donald Trump. I think somebody like a Ben Carson who can kind of help Trump with his unity campaign, or perhaps a Glenn Youngkin who could have helped him in a swing state like Virginia, could have potentially been better. But ultimately, I don't think that J.D. Vance was a bad pick. Of course, he has his baggage just like anybody would, but he is a capable orator. He's a very smart guy, and he did win the Ohio Senate election in what was a very tough year for Republicans in 2022. So because of those reasons, I think that J.D. Vance was a good pick, though he wouldn't have been my first choice.